Okay, so here I am at the other end of the washout. Okay, so right down there where you can see the road gets white. Hey guys, so I'm just getting back from the picking up grocery order, and I just thought, I was thinking about something as I drove. I don't know what made it pop in my mind, but I thought, you know what, this might be a cool story y'all might like to hear. Alright, so my old house, the house that Daddy grew up in, was left to Debbie when Nanny and Pawpaw died, because they raised Debbie. Debbie didn't know what she was going to do with the house. She didn't know how to take care of the house. It was, you know, it was this 1800s home, and I bought it from her. She wouldn't sell it to anybody else, and her husband at the time wanted to put renters in it, and she didn't want anybody that wasn't family living in it, so it was just sitting there, and it had been sitting there for about a year. So I asked her, could I buy it? So I bought the house and 2 acres. And that's where my house sits now, because we lost that house in a fire in 2012. Originally, that house... in the fire? Yes. Originally, that house sat up on the hill where Lester's house is. Well, where Ellie lives. It was up there. Not exactly in that spot, but on the hill there. Alright, so when Grandma Morrow was Daddy's grandmother, so she was my great-grandmother, was a little girl, she used to babysit for the Solaces. So I'm going to show y'all that house. So hold on one second. So you have to understand that she would walk. Now, there was no paved road then. There was none of this. This was all woods. And basically, yeah, there was a field here, the field that Lester Bales. Who threw that out right there? That can't just sit like that. Levi, move your head. She would come down. I'm assuming this would be the same driveway that was used. Levi, your head. And she would walk to babysit. So she would come down. Let's just say, I'm not for sure if this was the original driveway to their home. There is a reason why we used this all them years ago, because this used to be our original driveway until they made the new one that we use now up there by Buddy and Steph's. But let's just pretend this was the original driveway. She would walk this driveway, and then she would get out on this dirt road. This was just a dirt road. It was horse and buggies then. There were no cars. If cars were even, I don't know when cars became a thing, but they weren't any cars out here in Plum Grove. This was horses and horse and buggies, and she would walk this road. I don't know if this was a field then, but up there, there's Joanne's little mobile home, and there's Lester's house, Ellie's house. So somewhere between Lester's and Joanne's was where the house, my house that burnt down in the fire, originally sat. And she would walk down this road. This is the washout right here. So back then there was a little covered bridge. I mean, not covered bridge, a little wooden bridge. Okay? We're going to go on the other side of this bridge, so give me a second. But right now it's washed out. It's been washed out since Harvey. But then it was open. And it was a little wooden bridge. It was a little wooden bridge when I was driving. When I was a kid driving 16 years old, before they actually put a big culvert in and covered it. I mean, and, you know, put blacktop on it. But I'm going to show y'all where she walked to. That was where we just were. And she would cross the little bridge there, and she would just keep walking down this blacktop right here. And you would just keep going that way. This is where she walked. And you have to remember, back then there was nothing but woods. Just woods here and woods over here. Nothing. Look at this trash. That's what we have to see as we turn in here every day. All of this from all the way down was nothing but woods, and all this was woods, just trees. Dark, and this was a dark road, because even as a teenager, even as a teenager, this is the way we went out when we were headed like to, there's a town called Atascocita, Huffman, New Caney, Porter. We went this way. This is how we went out. And it was so dark on these roads. There's a lot of traffic here right now. I got to get in my car, get in the truck. But it was very, very dark. This was a dark, you would not want to be broke down here because it was so dark. But there was no houses around like there is now. And
somebody was over you.
No, nobody ran over me. I pulled out of the way. I was up in a corner. Got to back up here so I can get turned. I put y'all right in my face. All right, so she would walk down this road. Have to remember, there were no houses here. Nobody was here. You can put your own window up, but I'm doing it. These little roads like this was not here. This was nothing but trees. Both sides, nothing but trees. I mean, Dad, come up until 6 or 7 years ago, none of this was here even for us. Even though that community was going in back there, this stuff was still trees. Nobody had cleared here and built any of these houses. And this has just been done in the recent years too. I can't remember if these houses were here during Harvey or not, but this is all pretty newly, developed. But went back in those days when Grandma Morrow, which her name was Carrie, would walk down here, she would be walking in the woods, basically on a little on a little dirt road to the Solaces to babysit. And I don't know how often she babysat. I don't know why she babysat, for them. But this is where this mobile home place is on Solace pasture. Right here. This is the old Solace house. I'm going to pull in. I got a van right on my rear. I'm going to pull in. Okay. All right. This, up until I had my house fire, my house and this house were the oldest houses in Plum Grove. This is where she would walk. This place is for sale now, and they're asking $1 million something for this property. She would walk to this old house to babysit. And there's a story. I wonder if that's even livable anymore, if they're just planning to take. I see some of the roof, the metal on this corner is missing over here. And I don't remember how many acres this has. I think this tree line over here is their border, and then back behind the house is a pasture, and it opens to this pasture. And on the other side, it was all one big long pasture all the way down to that new development. But I think they sold, either they sold or they are renting a little spot right here for this mobile home place. I don't know if it was, that little piece was sold. It's kind of weird because they did, I don't know why they divided their pasture in half by selling like almost right in the middle of it, a little piece. I think they do have land back there in the trees. I think it goes a little further back. I cannot remember how many acres. But this is where she would walk. I'm probably assuming that maybe back then this was a pasture that they plowed this, for hay or big gardens for corn. I don't know. But back in those days, everything, you didn't go to the grocery store and buy your vegetables. You just didn't. So I'm assuming that this was some kind of big, they had already cleared this, and when she got to the pasture, it was probably open, but on that side of the road there was still just trees, thick trees. Okay, so the story goes that she was walking one night home after babysitting in the dark, walking home down this road, which was a dirt road, walking home. And as she walked, a cow came out into the middle of the road and just sort of stopped and looked at her, and she could tell it was a black cow. And this story has been passed down. I guess she, went home and told her parents, but it's probably during her life after she had children, she told her children, which in turn, Papa told Daddy and Uncle Raleigh and Aunt Sissy the same story, and Daddy's passed it down to us. But as she walked home that night, this cow crossed out of the woods and just sort of stopped in the middle of the road. And she, shoo, 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 get on now, get on, telling the cow to move, to move, get on out of the way. And it wouldn't leave. It just stood there. Now, you have to remember, this was dark. All she could see was this cow figure, a black cow. So not only is it dark, but this is a black cow, and she's shooing it on. And so finally she just decided that she would go ahead and walk up on it and, shoo it on, probably thinking it would cross, it had come out of this pasture. And as she got closer to it, it was a black panther.
Yeah, that's something to do.
And it did just walk on. You can't tell me, because even today I get chills when I think about it, that there's the story that I've told y'all before about Luce's bio, and his daughter saddled her horse and was going to ride to town, and he was on the buggy, and she saddled her horse and got gone before him, was just going to wait for him up the driveway a little ways for him to catch up. And the horse came home all scratched, and they never found his daughter. And so they knew, I don't know if they knew what tree. I don't know if there was other evidence that sort of led them to understanding exactly, but what they believed was she went up under this tree where a cougar, or, we've never seen any black panthers here now, but evidently there was black panthers back then. Maybe it was a panther. I don't know. But just to know that, I don't know where Luce's bio, his daughter, how old she was and what year that was. But I know that the old house was built in the 1800s, and this was my great-grandmother as a teenage girl, or 10, 12, I don't know if she was 10, but somewhere between 12 and a teenager, walking home and encountered a black panther that she thought was a black cow until she got closer. And they, found tracks. They knew that she hadn't made it up or was misunderstood what it was she seen. So it's just amazing that when you think about it, he stopped and he watched her. He looked at her. She stopped and she looked at him and she shooed him and she get on out of here. And he had no desire to attack her, to eat her, to hurt her. He just moseyed on across the road and into this pasture and went on into the woods. And it's just, I never met her. I don't guess I ever met her. But I know that if God hadn't allowed her to continue on her way and send that that panther on his way, that there never would have been my pawpaw. And then there never would have been my daddy. And there would have never been a me. And it's just amazing to me how everything just, because of this, now there's this. And because this didn't happen, now this is allowed to happen. And you just see God's hand in everything. Anyway, I thought you guys might like that story. Yes, Levi, we're going home. All right, see you guys later. Love y'all. God bless you.
You went past my home. You went past it.
I know we went past the home. I was going to say one more thing. Always look for God's hand in things, because it just makes it so much better when you can see his hand in it. I mean, his hands are in everything. But doesn't it just give you the warm fuzzies when you see it, when you acknowledge it? All right, love you guys. Katie, I'm trying to do a video.